a Look, the podcast bringing back a personal pop culture recommendation with Rin and Roger.
I did not hit her. It's not true. It's bullshit. I did not hit her. I did not. Oh, hi, podcast listeners. Hey, everyone. Welcome to Give It a Look podcast. My name is Roger, and I am here with my wonderful co-host, Rin. Rin, what's your favourite line from the legendary bad film, The Room?
Oh, God. I think it might be one of the ones where, you know, he goes in to buy flowers and he's like, oh, hi, doggy.
Man, that dog looks fed up as well.
Yeah, and the fact that she's just like, thanks, Tommy. Thanks, Johnny. You're my favorite customer.
People who know what we're talking about will know how bad the ADR is. Like, it's shockingly bad.
It's so bad, but it's so good.
Yeah. The reason why I'm quoting The Room is I'm very excited. I'm going to see it in a few weeks as part of the comedy festival at a special screening where you're encouraged to like throw stuff at the screen and yell quotes and stuff. So I think that's going to be quite an experience.
Definitely, for sure. I know I'm bummed I can't go with you, but oh well, next time.
It's going to be a sesh, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you for everyone who's tuned in again and has been giving us ratings on Spotify and whatnot, making the most of that new feature. Thanks again. We're going to get right into things. We're in the middle of TV time here at Give It a Look. So we have given each other a TV series that the other person has never seen before. Rin, do you want to start us off with your offering for this week?
Yes, so I gave you Wentworth. So Wentworth is basically like a reimagined version of Prisoner, which used to be a show here in Australia that aired between 1979 to 1986. It's just a reimagined version of that, more present day as such. So basically Wentworth is a fictional women's prison, and we follow B. Smith, who is going into Wentworth, and we meet the characters inside. So we meet the prisoners, we meet the officers as well, who they are described as by the inmates as the screws. And, we just see the insides and the outsides of that kind of world within the prison walls. So, yeah, it's very interesting. There's drugs and gangs and all that, happening. And, it's really capturing. I watched all seasons. I think it was 8 seasons. And I think I watched it within maybe a month period because I was just that captured by the storylines and the intensity of it. But yeah, so I really, really like this. So, we follow B. Smith and kind of her journey navigating the prison system and working her way to be top dog. She meets top dogs like, you got Jax, who's in season 1, top dog, and then you meet characters like Frankie and Liz, and there's Doreen, and there's a whole like family unit there, and it's really, really good. I really love this show. What did you think? Tell me your opening thoughts.
So I watched the first 5 episodes of season 1, which is the first half, to get a good gist of it. Thank you to the person who uploaded those 5 episodes to a certain video hosting site. They were mirrored, as a lot of these things are, so I feel like I've been seeing everything, on the opposite side of the screen, but got there in the end. I didn't know about the Prisoner connection until I kind of watched it a bit and did a bit of background reading. Not really familiar with Prisoner at all, but...
No, it was a bit before us, but it was a very big show for its time.
Definitely having like a real adult-oriented scripted drama on Australian TV. I can't remember the last Aussie drama that I took a look at. And, that's on me. That's on me. It's also on the government for its not giving great support to the arts in general.
Yeah.
This was promising. It's interesting that this was kind of running concurrent with the Netflix hit series Orange is the New Black, which I've enjoyed in the past. Both set in women's prisons, and I was actually trying to find parallels between them. I was thinking, well, yeah, who's going to be the Pensatucky or Wentworth or this kind of thing?
Who is Piper Chapman?
Yeah, well, I guess B would naturally be that as the new kid on the block or whatever. But they're very different tonally. I think Orange is the New Black can be very serious, but also has a fair amount of kind of whimsy and
comical
subplots. Yeah,
Yeah.
you'd say. Whereas with Wentworth, there's no whimsy here at all. This is hard. It has more in common with Oz, the old HBO drama series. Yeah, these are hard women. And also the guards seem to be more or less competent, unlike in Orange is the New Black. So
Yes.
yeah, a couple of other differences. Stylistically, I could probably do with less of like the slow-mo. I think it's overused a bit. I don't know if that was how it is from Prisoner or whether that's just something left over from Underbelly.
I feel like the style of season 1 is very different to the following seasons.
Okay.
You know, it's the first season, like you're kind of learning, I guess, different lightings, different styles. It comes across in later seasons a lot more, I don't know, maybe dramatic, I want to say, maybe a bit more intense. I feel like the first season I was kind of like, oh yep, this is good, I can watch this. Later seasons I was like, whoa, oh, like, you know, some things I'd be like covering my eyes. I'm like, whoa, that took me by surprise, you know. But that was like my thinking.
It wouldn't be the first series to have taken it time to find its feet. So yeah, it wasn't a deal breaker for me. It was just like, I felt like it was a little bit overused. I think the pilot is quite exciting just because it really shows that everyone's at risk. It's pretty top heavy in terms of plot and actual.
Basically, the first season revolves around the death of Governor Meg Jackson, who they find dead during the riot. And the whole season is just like, who did it? You know, investigating that. So it's really interesting. And her husband is Will Jackson, one of the officers there. So, you know, he's also got his own kind of thoughts of who's done it, and you know, he kind of goes a bit off the rails as well, like a bit vigilante in a sense as well, trying to find out who killed his wife. But yeah, so it's very interesting to see the ins and outs of both the inmates and the, you know, the screws.
Great use of licensed music, I'd say. You know, a real opportunity to get some Australian artists in there. But also, episode 2 ends with the song Answer by Sarah McLachlan, which is an old favourite. And I was like, oh, man, I haven't heard this in ages kind of thing. And
yeah.
It does suit the emotionality of the tone. I also noticed that, at least in what I saw, it had a propensity to cast male comedic actors in like small roles. People always say that, you know, comedy is the hard one out of comedy and drama.
Yeah.
So if you do comedy well, you can probably do drama. Yeah, Paul McDermott shows up as well in kind of this minor role. Yeah, I thought that was an interesting touch. I would say that Nicole De Silva as Frankie is a real standout character, just someone who really steals every scene she's in.
Yeah.
As she plays this kind of unpredictable person who's playing with the politics of the prison.
Like the hierarchy of the, you know, the prison system as such. Like, you know, you've got Top Dog and she's, you know, Top Dog Jax is currently, you know, kind of in isolation as such at the moment. And then she's kind of, you know,
she likes
to stir the
things
pot.
up.
Yes, she does. Yes,
So
absolutely.
a bit like the
she does.
hyena to the top dogs, if you like. And sometimes it does come back to bite her. But yeah, great performance by her. Although I think someone should tell her maybe not to run on a treadmill with Converse All-Stars on, because that is a surefire way to destroy your arches.
I think that's what all my PE teachers told us. Don't wear your Converse.
Yeah.
Get proper runners.
Now, much like Orange is the New Black, the episodes I saw were all peppered with these kind of sepia-toned flashbacks for each character. And they're okay. Some of them are a little bit clumsy in terms of the child actors aren't great, or you kind of think to yourself, oh, that doesn't make sense for that person to have seen it from this perspective. Visually at least, but that's fine. I wanted to get into this a bit though, Ren. I wanted to talk a little bit about the old chestnut strong female characters, because I think, you know, they're all over this show and we're in an age of pop culture where they're certainly getting their due. So what does it mean for you as a woman to see, you know, these great ensemble casts of strong female characters portrayed?
It's really good because, like, for example, this show, like, the first episode was the most watched Aussie drama series premiere on Foxtel. And, like, I think that speaks volumes as well. Like, people wanting to see this. And they all, like, each character, like, each actor, they make the character their own. And each person, like, steals their own scene. Do you know what I mean? Like, they have, like, you have a character like Liz, who is, like, the warm kind of motherly figure in the system. And like people can relate to that and go, wow, she's nice and warm. She makes me feel comfortable and safe, right? And then you've got Frankie, who's a bit of a, I want to describe her as a bit of a class clown. You know, again, you know, people find that relatable. And I think each character is quite relatable to someone to a degree. Do you know what I mean? And watching these women come together, because they're all in their own different cell blocks, and they all are like they treat each other like family as well. And I think that's the nice side of that show, I suppose. You know, there's obviously conflicts and whatnot, but you know, there's a lot of lovable characters in this show. And you've only seen X amount of shows, but like the camaraderie as well throughout, and the sisterhood. It's very nice to see. There's a lot of representation as well, diversity, you know, sexuality as well. They're topics that are relevant to today.
We're talking about it as an Australian drama, and it is, but you could almost say it's like an Australian/New Zealand drama, because there really are.
There's a lot of New Zealand, there's a lot of crossover,
and there
as there usually is, I think.
Yeah, like I think Bee's from New Zealand.
She was fantastic in Underbelly Grazer as well.
Oh, was she in that?
Yes, she was.
Oh, she was in the Underbelly?
Yes, she was. It was the one that was set in 1920s.
Okay.
When all the gangsters would have like the razors and slash each other. But yes, she was really good in that. That's where I first saw Danielle McCormick.
Yeah, and it's always good to see a homegrown success.
Oh, absolutely.
Who knows if this would have survived on kind of like basic free-to-air, but, you know, it had a model kind of built around it on cable, and, it's found some really good success there. Seems to hold its own, and I can see myself, you know, coming back to it and picking up where I left off.
If you go into the next season, one of the best TV villains, I think, of all time appears, and she is phenomenal. She was probably one of my favorite characters. Like, even though she was the villain, she was so, you know, she would just capture your attention, and it was just amazing. I was like, I can't wait to see what she does next.
I assume that there's a different feel to the hierarchy amongst women than there would be to a hierarchy amongst men, and if this was like a male villain.
That character in particular, she comes in as the governor. She's in this powerful position. Usually what happens is like the top dog and the governor, they kind of come into like they, you know, cahoots, I suppose, you know, because they want to do what's best for the women and, you know, make deals to kind of, you know, so it's very interesting, and it's very, they become entangled, and it's all very, I'd really like it if you, at least watch the second season, because I think you would really like it.
You mentioned the feel of kind of the makeshift family, and I think that's really important to get a bit of contrast in there, because, there is a lot of fights and shivings and stuff.
Yes.
Along here, so your mileage may vary. That's what I really liked about Orange is the New Black as well. Often they would go for episodes at a time where there wasn't necessarily much happening in the master plot, but it was just kind of fun hanging out and seeing what was going on in the downtime, you know.
It's so funny you mentioned Orange is the New Black, because I think I watched it so long ago, I haven't even compared the two, to be honest.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I only watched Wentworth recently, probably just at the end of last year, but I finished, you know, Orange is the New Black ages ago when it kind of when it ended, I suppose.
Yeah, I mean, you know, just the common ground of the women's prison. Now, we have a new game that we hope you've been enjoying during TV time. Rin, what is it?
It is Snog, Marry, Avoid. So you have to decide who, out of all the characters in Wentworth, who you would snog, marry, and avoid. So continue.
All right. Well, I said, I don't know if this would quite work, so to speak, but I said snog Frankie. I would be, you know, barking up the wrong tree. But you know, she's kind of alluring in her own way. I would marry Bay because, again, I'm sorry. Sorry. It's B, isn't it?
Did you say Bay?
I said Bay.
Bay.
I would marry B because, again, I'm being a bit of a white knight. It looks like she's come from a pretty not great marriage before, so I'm just like, get her away kind of thing.
B is your Bay?
Yeah, B is my I said I would avoid Jax because she's just like scary grandma.
Well, yeah, you don't want to be with the scary grandma.
No, not even for, a cup of tea and watching Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. I don't know, whatever grandmas do. I'm going to stamp, give it a look on this one. Aussie, 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 oi, oi, oi. We've produced some pretty ordinary stuff in the past, but this is, this has some great foundations. So if you want to check it out, you can watch it on Binge.
Hey everyone, we wanted to take a minute to tell you about our new friends at ZeroCo. ZeroCo make incredible home cleaning and personal care products conveniently delivered direct to your door, minus all the single-use plastic. They're Australian made and owned. All their products are plant-based and feature carbon negative delivery. Now, the way it works is super simple. You order, ZeroCo deliver, you return their reusable liquid pouches and ZeroCo refill them. It's like the milkman reimagined. If you're new to ZeroCo, use our affiliate link in the episode description and get yourself one of their convenient starter kits. Not only will you be cutting down on household waste and helping clean up our oceans, beaches and landfill, you'll also be supporting this podcast. ZeroCo. Give single-use plastic the flick. All right, so moving on to the next TV show, what did you give me this week?
This show kind of combines the last two shows I've recommended. You've got the sci-fi paranoia of devs along with the fourth wall breaking of Fleabag. The show is Mr. Robot. So Mr. Robot is the story of Elliot Alderson, played by Rami Malek, who's this kind of misanthropic vigilante computer hacker is probably the best way of putting it. He has social anxiety and depression. He's not in a great place. He's got a drug habit. And he hacks people as a way to connect with them and to know their secrets, for better or worse. He finds that when he has a certain feeling about someone, that if they're hiding something or whatever, that this is what he does. He finds it really easy to hack them. And occasionally he uses this to dole out a little bit of justice. So he works at a cybersecurity company called AllSafe, and they've recently taken on a massive client called E Corp, or as Elliot constantly refers to them, Evil Corp. So we'll call them Evil Corp here to get on board with that. And they're like this global superpower. I mean, they have products, they have computers, they own banks and insurance. The closest parallel you would think is probably Apple, but Mr. Robot takes place in a world where Apple also exists. They're just not as big. Mm-hmm. This Evil Corp is just absolutely massive. And Elliot absolutely despises them because his father used to work for them and he died from radioactive exposure. So he feels quite torn about taking them on. His company actually gets hacked, which has implications for all of their clients, including E Corp. And while he's involved in disabling the hack, he crosses paths with the enigmatic, unpredictable Mr. Robot, played by Christian Slater, who wants to recruit him into this underground hacker group called F Society, who basically want to take down Evil Corp and free the world from debt. So they have big plans, and they are working together with other hackers in China to achieve this. Along the way, you meet some really interesting characters. Tyrell Wellick, played by Martin Wallstrom, who's this sociopathic capitalist climbing the corporate ladder at E Corp at any cost, kind of doing his best American Psycho impression, along with his wife, who's equally in on the plan. You also have his childhood friend Angela, who works with him at AllSafe, and her absolute dropkick of a boyfriend, Ollie, who I'd forgotten how despicable he is. They kind of get embroiled in this as well. And he also has this kind of developing relationship with his neighbour, Shayla. So this was kind of a watershed show for the USA Network, who had hit shows like Suits and Burn Notice, but had never really had like a prestige HBO level kind of edgelord drama. It found an audience. It won 2 Golden Globes, including Best TV Drama in its debut season, 3 Emmys, including Best Actor in a drama for Malek. He was relatively unknown when he started this, and very early on I was like, this guy's got something. And of course now he's a superstar. He's an Oscar winner and doing some great work. You know, you have to say that the series does owe a lot to one of my favourite directors, David Fincher, and particularly the film Fight Club, both in its themes of capitalism and anarchy, but also This is the most Fincher-looking thing since House of Cards or The Social Network. Characters are often like on the edge of frames when they're shot. It's a really interesting kind of stylistic choice. There's an exceptional synth soundtrack by Mac Quayle as well. It's being praised for its realistic portrayal of hacking as well. There's no
tap, 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 I'm in.
Yeah, fancy graphics, CSI thing. I'm keen to hear how much of Mr. Robot did you watch and what did you think?
I watched 3 episodes because the episodes were quite long. So All Safe Cybersecurity, like the company name, I thought it was a bit of a contradiction because they seem to be getting hacked. And I was like, you are not all safe.
Yikes.
That was one thought I had. I think it's kind of like how I was thinking with devs. I'm not a big computer person, so I kind of struggled with the jargon and things like that. And I think when I'm really not into a certain topic, I really zone out. Like I was really trying to watch it, but there was times I would go on my phone because I'm like, just kind of scrolling, kind of thing. But I was just kind of like,
Elliot's going to hack you.
Probs. But it was a bit of a struggle for me. Like I said, I'm not really into maybe like sci-fi computer kind of shows per se. There was a scene, he goes and sees his like psychologist, and his psychologist is like, I know you're angry at society. And then Elliot has like this inner monologue and he's just like, fuck society. And I was just like, relatable. And I had a good laugh at that actually. I was just like, yeah man, I get it.
And this is in like the last days of the Obama administration as well, so he didn't even know what was coming.
No, but and it was interesting, like I was listening to the scoring, like the music and things like that. It was very like 80s vibe, like synthetic, I guess computer sounding things, I guess because computers is kind of the theme of the show. And like I said, the jargon kind of got me. But then, throughout the show as well, you see themes of, drug abuse, power, these mega companies owning the world, mental health. And we see, I guess, friendship as well. Like we see, his friendship with Angela. Also, what I didn't like as well, there was a scene where, I mean, this is the point. She was in a meeting with all these men and the men, she kind of just fumbled over one small thing and they were just like, dismissed her like, okay, you're out, you're off the case. And I was like, it's a man's world sometimes, isn't it?
And that was the final straw for Elliot making a particular decision in the pilot.
Yeah, so, exactly.
It was important.
I really like Christian Slater as well. I find him very charismatic. I really enjoyed him in Dr. Death, which I watched recently as well. He just has a really good way of speaking. He's very enticing, I suppose, as a person. I don't know. Elliot, I don't know, interesting. I couldn't engage with him, I suppose, but he's supposed to be a complicated character. And I think maybe if I watched it a bit longer, I'd probably understand, his more inner thoughts, I suppose.
And good on Christian Slater for kind of sticking it in the TV world, because he had several shows before this that couldn't get off the ground, couldn't get past the first season kind of thing. So for this to actually stick, I think is great for him.
Did you ever watch Heathers?
The original film or the series?
The original film, yeah, because he was in that.
Neither of them, actually. I haven't seen a lot of his filmography, but yeah, he was huge in the 90s.
Yeah, because he was in that with Winona Ryder.
Yeah,
now it's the throwback.
I'm going to play a card here, Rin. You said you watched 3 episodes. I would actually strongly encourage you to watch at least another 3 eps and see if it gets you. The first season's only 10. In fact, if you can, I'd recommend getting to the end, because this show...
I got to push myself. All right.
There's some really interesting stuff coming up, which I want to be careful how I talk about it. This is a show that loves to play with audience expectations, and it loves to throw you off the scent of where you think it might be going.
Okay.
This was actually a really weird rewatch for me, because I started the first few episodes and I literally thought to myself, I'm actually not enjoying this. Why did I like this? This is so nihilistic. I'd argue that Elliot is probably not very sympathetic until he makes a big change in his life a few episodes in and starts dealing with some absolute scumbags as well that kind of creates some contrast.
And I think for myself, like, I can't relate to Elliot as well. And I think I struggle with that because I'm quite an empathetic person. Like, I feel a lot of other people's feelings, and I think he's very much not that way inclined.
I find he became humanised as we go along and the real treasures are there. So I've just finished the first season on my rewatch of the whole thing and I'm like, yeah, give me it.
How about this? I finished the season and then in a later episode, I'll come back and I'll say, yep, okay, you've changed my mind, potentially.
Yeah, we'll see. We haven't done that before, but we can certainly give it a go. Because episode 4, so that's the next one, is really the first kind of experimental episode. And this show became more and more experimental as it came on. It would have multiple kind of dream and hallucinogenic sequences. One episode I remember later in its run is all done in one take, or at least is made to look that way. Someone told me in the final season there's an episode all without dialogue as well.
There's an episode without dialogue?
Yeah. So I'm looking forward to seeing how that goes. Now, this was created by Sam Esmail, who actually directed all the episodes after season 1. So it has quite a single-minded vision and a small writer's room. And I definitely got that sense. As the scale of the show kind of goes out and out, it does cover a lot of ground and sometimes can be difficult to follow all the moving pieces, especially if you've been taking breaks between seasons, which was naturally happening while it was going. Yeah, the show can definitely disappear up its own arse at times with the terminology, but also in the way it does its different threads.
Yeah.
I'd also argue that the kid who plays a young Elliot is not great. We've dissed a few child actors, so.
Does he look like him?
Look, the resemblance is fine, but maybe he's like a stage actor and he's kind of overdoing it a bit. It doesn't quite look right.
Yeah.
But this show, and again, I want to be careful how I'm talking about this, does cognitive dissonance better than any show I've ever seen. So cognitive dissonance being you're holding two opposing ideas in your mind at the same time and feeling that discomfort.
Am I going to have that jaw drop moment? Because that's what I love in shows.
Yeah, potentially. So I'll give you some vague examples. There's a scene in season 1 where two characters who don't know each other, to our knowledge, are in the same room talking as if they know each other. And the feeling up here is like, what is going on here? I haven't seen this angle before. There's also another part where one character says to another character that they love them so much. And again, from what you know of the relationship, this is not something that this person would say to another. This leads to some really interesting things. So I would say, anyone listening out there, if you like twisty shows, this one's for you because it's continually throwing interesting curveballs there. And like I said, the treasures will come.
Interesting. Okay, watch this space.
This was just really on my vibe back in 2015 when it came out. And I'm looking forward to completing my rewatch because I never watched the final season. Snog, marry, avoid. You got some doozies here, Rin. Who you got?
I would snog Flipper the dog because who doesn't love dog kisses?
Sure.
I said I would marry Mr. Robot / Christian Slater because he's very charismatic. He's nice.
I want to marry you, Ren. That's terrible impression.
There was a murder characters that I was like, oh yeah, I have such a great pick. Not. And then I said I would avoid Elliot just because like I can't look at him and be like, yeah, we're going to work. Big smooch from the dog. I'll marry Mr. Robot and I'll avoid Elliot.
Very interesting. And those who've seen this show will be like, okay, those are some interesting choices.
Keep in mind, I've only watched 3 episodes, so...
Yeah. That's okay. Nudge, nudge, wink, wink.
Done and dusted for that. I think my verdict's going to, at this stage, be give it a miss. But if anyone does want to watch it, you can watch it on Stan.
That you can watch on Stan. Righto. We are getting into our final week of TV time. It's been a blast, and thank you for those who've given us encouragement with it. What's your final show for me next time, Rin?
All right, here we go. I hope you are ready for some saucy show.
Bob's Burgers? Do they put sauce on the burgers?
No, but also that's a great show. I am giving you Bridgerton. Watch out.
Okay, interesting. And I'm giving you the OG one-season wonder. It's Firefly. It's a show that's very close to my heart. It's a show that is wrapped up in great memories for me. It's a show that I can't even see, objectively anymore because of my love for it. So it'll be good to get an objective perspective on it. If you listening at home have seen either of these shows, or you have your own snog, marry, avoid to give us with these two shows, please hit us up on socials. We would love to hear from you. Where can people do that, Rin?
On our Insta and our Twitter, you can find us at Give It A Look Pod. And if you want to email us at giveitalook1@outlook.com.
Another one in the bag, my friend.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, any final words for our listeners?
Alcohol does not solve any problems. But then again, neither does milk. All right, goodbye, everybody.
She's lactose intolerant, everyone. She's not kidding.